Welcome to the Spiritual Artist Podcast. This is Chris Miller. I invite you to join me as I interview artists from a variety of disciplines. We'll share powerful stories and lessons learned while making their art. Good day. This is Chris Miller with the Spiritual Artist Podcast. I'm excited with today's guest. As you know, I always find people that motivate me and bring me great thought. And so we're going to jump in with Miriam Thiel. She is a conscious business and life coach who helps women entrepreneurs connect the dots to feel good about marketing and sales conversations without giving up on integrity. So good morning, Miriam. How are you?
Good morning. Oh, I'm fine. How about you?
I realize, of course, it's probably Miriam is in Switzerland, and it's probably not morning there, is it? Is it?
No, it's 9 p.m.
Oh my gosh!
Well, hey, good night.
Well, you know, Miriam, I'm so excited to talk to you, and I want to share this with my listeners. I usually, even in my book, I try to speak on issues that are universal, and when you approached me with your concept, because you focus on issues that are more prevalent, not always, but more prevalent with women, right?
Right. Because I think when we talk about sales or marketing, it's often that when we think about salespeople, it's what comes to mind. It's a man, and they might be a little pushy and very assertive. And those are not really ways women like to present to be likable. And yeah, it's not the way we think women should behave in ways of society. Well, they should, but.
Well, you know, it's funny. So I think you're right. I wanted to tell the listeners that I was just helping a friend of mine. She is putting up a show, and I helped her hang some art. It's a show for an organization in Dallas, and I was working with some other women, and I was telling them about I'm going to do a podcast this afternoon, and I said it's about how challenging it can be for women because they're almost encouraged to or disencouraged to embrace skills that are considered sales-like. And boy, what a trigger, right? These women, they were like, oh my gosh, that's so true. And they resonated. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps because they totally were like, oh, I want to hear that podcast. And so I'm excited for you to talk about this because they were like, yes, it's almost like you're shamed. There's a shame issue.
Yeah, I call it actually the sales shame. It's funny, but it's true. It's kind of, if you self-promote or sell something, it's something maybe because we have bad experiences ourselves, but it's this being seen and being, not only be of service. It's about, I have something, buy it, or like being this maybe manipulative person. And often sales can be very predatory, and usually women are more conditioned to be helpful, be supportive, to be caring, and often feels sales isn't that way. It's like it's part of business, but it feels not that it's beneficial for someone. Even when we sell art, or it's so beautiful, we all like to buy those things, but if we are the seller, it can be so challenging because we think we do harm in a way. We push something to the other person and we make them maybe something they don't want to do.
And so that in itself, so I'm going to put a little bookmark right here real quick and just mention to my male listeners, there is a universality to these issues. We all have traits that we've been encouraged through our consciousness of society around us. And so hang in and listen to this, all the male listeners, because there's something you can learn too, and things in your own personality that maybe you weren't encouraged. I'm going to flip it real quick. A man might not be encouraged to listen.
That is true.
So
Totally.
yeah. So tell me, it's funny when I was talking to these women, they immediately were like, "Oh, I get shamed." They said, "I have had people, I'll send out a newsletter and someone will write back and it's kind of like a hidden shame. They'll say, "Oh, how nice, which you're so brave to share this with the world." Right?
Yeah. It's maybe because we put ourselves in the spotlight, and it's like, oh, she gets, and sometimes we get praised for it, how confident we are, or sometimes we get said, oh, she's so bossy. Even then, men are only assertive, but women are bossy.
Right. The
So
same trait is
yeah,
positive for a man and negative for a woman.
yeah.
And
So, and I think, yeah, often, well, and it can be just beautiful because, like you said, active listening is such a immense great value you bring in a sales conversation. And yes, men, well, they are society, like in society, men are more, well, the doers and talkers, and not the person who's listening. So and in sales behavior, it's like men give you all the features and logical things, like, and women are more the empathic people who, well, care. And if you care for someone, and I'm more in the helping space, so it's kind of, sometimes it can feel that this person shouldn't be needed to pay for help. And that can be very, feel, trigger shame and guilt for, well, that we take money for that, or, yeah.
So how do you encourage women to acknowledge that they're bringing value to someone's life? How do you do that?
I do it with mindset in a way to, well, I ask you questions and you need to write it down, but I do also breath work. So it's more somatic work. So it's deep in the body. So it's a mix what I do, but because I believe knowing is not integration. And I'm a person, I'm deep in my head, I know a lot of things. I know that sales in a way isn't a bad thing, but still I behave. I have sometimes unconscious triggers, or yeah, and I need to figure it out. Why we might know, oh, I shouldn't eat that cake, but still we do it.
Right.
So,
Right.
and that is the same in business. In a way, we have unconscious pattern. We know things, but we behave still differently. So
So would you tell it's about being more self-aware, I guess, right? Of
absolutely, yes. That is absolutely the first step, to recognize your thoughts when things you might feel uncomfortable with, that, oh, what's going on in my body? What feelings do I feel? What thoughts do I think? Because all these things trigger behavior. And sometimes we procrastinate because we don't want to do things. Or in the beginning of my business, I focused on social media marketing because everybody told you need to be on social media, but I avoided sales because I was so scared to be on sales calls with people, because I felt it's so manipulative. And I learned a way that was manipulative. So it's kind of in the sales training I had, it was kind of high pressure. So, and I hated it.
oh yeah.
Um,
So did you
so
have to learn a different way to sell yourself? I mean,
yeah, I um I really said, no, that's not how I like to do it. I can't do it. I can't be on I don't have conversations with people that way. I'm one of my core values is transparency and honesty. And I can't, well, work that way. So, and I said, okay, I'm trying totally different. Being honest, I'm very upfront with pricing. Before I learned that you shouldn't have your pricing on your website, something like that. And it still blows my mind how people not show how much something costs. That is really, I think that's manipulative. And
it is. I've had that conversation with artists too. They're like, should I show my prices in the booth or not? And I always feel like putting a price out is more, it lets people know where they're at, because right away someone knows, can I afford this or not? And you're not going to talk them into it, right? You're not going to hide the price. And then if they like it enough, I agree with you. It's interesting. So I noticed on your website, and it sounds like that's what you've done, is you've taken your own personal journey, which is what I do, and used it. So you consider yourself an introvert, right? Or do you?
Yes. Yeah, I do. I made the Myers-Briggs personality test, and my introvert, and my introvert trait is, I think, 90-30%. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, it's pretty high, but still, I consider myself an introvert, but often when people think about introverts, that they are shy, and that is not really what introversion is. It can come with shyness, but it's more that we get easily overstimulated and we need breaks. So it's to rest and fill our social cup again. And I really learned how, like having one-on-one conversations. I really enjoyed that. And in the coaching business, people tell you, you need to have group coachings. And it's something, because it's your time is better. You can get more money out of group coachings because you have more people on it. And
I know it's funny. It's always money instead of who you are, right?
Yeah, sometimes it is when you need to make more money to, in your business to pay your bills. And sometimes we don't want to work all the day long, which I'm totally for. But I'm a person, I like this one-on-one. I'm for deep conversations, and I like to have this bond building with people. And it's something that I pretty much enjoy. And I know many introverts they're great listeners.
Well, it's interesting. I found out something in that was a learning stage for me, the power of listening. Mm-hmm. And I realized, so I was like you, I was trained to, my father was in sales. And so when I was going to college, I was pushed towards sales, not art, but sales. And I didn't like sales by itself, but so I would go out and I would take people to lunch for years, and I would sit down across from them, and immediately it was like, what do you need? What can I give you? How much? I immediately would jump into the push. What can I sell you? Well, when I started writing this book, I started experimenting with listening, and I started trying just to go, and I recommend this to the listeners too, the listeners of this listening, but I would take people to lunch, and then I stopped with any sort of motivation on my side. I just decided I was going to know as much as I could about that person and let them talk. And we would talk about their children and their car and their house and what they love. And I kid you not, the funny thing was, at the end of the conversation, suddenly they would say, "Oh, I have this project. Can you do it?" And it was like an afterthought. I mean, literally in the last 10 minutes of the lunch, suddenly I would get a sale, but it wasn't because I forced it. I just let
Yeah.
listening is actually a better superpower than that pushing what you need. And so really women
Yeah.
have an advantage.
I think that too. I think if you this empathy and that you care what the other person is saying and really listening, this is very valuable. And I think this is something that women should be embraced and as something that is really a superpower.
Yeah.
It makes people they start to trust you, they start to enjoy you, they feel heard and seen. And this is something everybody likes. We all want to be seen and heard and understood. And this is how you can help them that way. And for me, it's like I approach sales conversations today. I'm excited to meet a new person and I need to make money in my business, but it's I really want to create the space for them to say no, and for myself as well, because I think it's very important to have these boundaries that you don't need to work with everybody. This is something that is very, very powerful, not to go into something like a sale conversation that you need to sell, this desperation. I need to make you buy my offer.
Exactly. Because I think that it pushes them away rather than brings them close. And you said something there about creating that space. And I think you had talked to me about that before, about creating a space and what do you mean by that? Like in the conversation or in yourself?
Both. I think this starts before every conversation, that you need to, or that you feel in balance with yourself. If you're go into a conversation with fear or sometimes nervousness is normal, but if you feel fearful, people feel that. Many people are empathic, so they catch up on that, and they are afraid themselves then. And making space in yourself for being balanced, to be much more calm, it helps you to think better. For example, if you're nervous, if I'm nervous, I don't find the right words. So this is the space inside of myself to allow myself maybe not be that I'm present, but I'm showing up as my true self. And sometimes I'm nervous, so sure. But sometimes I say, oh, okay, I forgot something, or I need to find the red thread we talked about again. So being vulnerable in a way, but also to open that, give permission the other person to feel that same, to open up and being authentic in a way, and talk about when someone comes into a sales conversation, they usually have a problem. If we work with a business, it's often not that vulnerability thing, but if we talk with people, I started as a parenting coach, so it's can be very the people have very problems that they impact their lives, and it's sometimes it can be shameful to talk about that and open that space to talk about how people feel and what they need is important in when we talk about sales.
So it kind of goes back to, it reminds me of Brene Brown. She talks about vulnerability a lot. And how when you go into someone you like a lot, when you go into a conversation, being willing to be vulnerable. See, that's another trait that's not encouraged necessarily for men.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
That is, and caring. I remember we lived in the US, and I was at the playground with my son, and there were many other kids, and there was a little boy, and he walked to a girl, and she had a doll, and he wanted to play with the doll, and the mom came and said, "You can't play with the doll. That's not for boys."
Oh,
So, and it broke my heart, because it's not that men don't care. They do, but they are encouraged not to do. And I believe if it's a lot of conditioning, men can be great listeners. It's a skill you can learn. And
yeah.
same for women, we can be more assertive. But sometimes it feels hard, because people look, and you need to feel confident enough to be yourself and to want that.
It's funny, because when I was talking to this woman before this interview, one of them, of course, she said, I don't have a problem with being assertive, but the other one did. And she said, but the funny thing is, when I am assertive, she says, sometimes I'll get negative, like passive aggressive feedback from other women. Other women sometimes are the hardest on you. The men are like, oh, good. But other women, she said.
Yeah, that's true. I'm a little bit in social, how women or how people are conditioned, and we live in systems, and women are keeping the system alive as much as everybody else. And I grew up with a grandma. She was terrible, in a way. She really said men are much better than women, and you need to serve men. So she was very yeah. So, and this is something that is deep ingrained, and well, it keeps up the system we live in. And women are much stricter, and well, they are the ones who tell you behave in a certain way, or think about, well, when a woman has a daughter, how they dress her, how you talk. If you have a girl, or a girl gets said, "Oh, you're so beautiful, you have a beautiful dress," and this is all going on. So it's women keep other women in their place. If we are not conscious about it, and well, stand up for ourselves, and maybe calling it out to, well,
that's a scary thing. Yeah.
It is. And it takes sometimes a lot of gut to stand up and say, oh no. But often we stay in the place we are, because we want to belong. We want to be part of a group, and not being, well, the outsider.
And so I noticed, like in your description, you say you're a conscious business and life coach. It's about being conscious, or even self-conscious, of who you are. And I love to think with belief systems is, people don't realize a belief system is just another tool. And we have the choice to take that tool down and say, is this serving me? Right? Is this serving me? And is it getting me where I want to be? And you can say, I was raised Catholic. And I always tell people that Catholics are raised to take care of everybody else in the room first. Like literally is everybody happy? I could have my foot cut off and be bleeding, but if everybody's happy and everybody has something to drink, and it's taken me a while to realize I'm in my 50s, and it still takes me a while to realize, to take those steps and say, no, this is who I am. This is who I am. And I just left a corporate position and decided to put all my energy into my own art, selling my art. And I have to tell you, all my life, I've been a salesperson, but I've sold other people's things. And it's like, in my mind, it's okay for me to brag about your teachings and your coaching. It's okay for me to talk about another artist, but for me to talk about my own art, right? How vain, what a narcissist I am, right?
Yeah, right. It's, oh, look at me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's scary moving out there, right? It's scary to go against it. And there are people that will send me a snarky little, oh, I see you're sending a newsletter out with more art or whatever, I think it's being conscious, a conscious business person. It's a challenge.
Yeah. And I think often when we think about business, it's often just the logic, give me all the tools and the strategies, but often it just doesn't work. And that's what I said. And things, but it's not integrated because they're obstacles. And yeah, like we think maybe we're people pleasers, grew up in a family, yeah, and I can totally relate to, well, my family wasn't Catholic, but they were evangelists, so, and totally the same, but men were allowed to, well, rest and women worked for them. But totally altruistic, and yeah, everybody else first. So lost my train.
No, but I was thinking how, for a listener, when you're thinking about this, I always like to say to the listener, do you let yourself be first? Do you ever take care of yourself? And even if you hear that, is someone online cringing? Oh no, oh, right? Because there's that you can feel it in your body, right?
Mm-hmm. It feels so uncomfortable. And that is being recognized, that feeling, and maybe asking, where is it coming from? Why do I feel that way? And maybe, do I hear some voices talking to me, and whose voices are those? And really feeling into that and unlayering that, and deciding that they might have served you in the past, but it's time to move on with something new and reframe that, and making the space for something new, and letting go of maybe the pain you have felt in the past about that.
So do you have, you mentioned breath work.
Yeah.
Do you teach certain breathing exercises? Is that part of a meditation? Or
I do only one breathing pattern. It's I learned revelation breathwork, and that is a guided meditation that is with music. It goes between 10 and 60 or longer minutes. And it has an active breathing part where it's a pretty simple breathing technique, but it's not relaxing like maybe the meditations we usually think sit down, but this one you lay down, and it's only through the mouth, so it's very active. It's like more sports, running, and it's helping to shut down your brain. So usually your brain is in control and on control of your thoughts, and it doesn't want to be shut out. So you can sit with yourself. And as someone I'm not good with meditation because my brain is very active. And this helps to, really say, okay, brain, be quiet. There's more. There's something deeper. And maybe like the pain we felt when we were younger because we were not allowed to behave in a way we liked, or we needed to serve anybody else first. So yeah, there was maybe not the space for us to be who we are. And this is very helpful to feel that because pain is stored in the body. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. It's really about trauma. It's
body
amazing.
Keeps the score. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm really into this body too, because actually I have a podcast lined up in the future where someone's using the body for I believe it or not, for money issues. But I'm finding more and more people are realizing that not just your mind, but you're bringing your body.
Yeah. The somatic work.
And when you say active, I think that's what you said, active breathing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just in case people don't know that term, I do yin, but active is when you're aware of it, right? You're consciously controlling it. Is that what you would say
Yeah.
active is?
Yeah. It
Like,
means you say how you breathe, and it's mouth breathing. So it's not nose breathing for, let's say, 30 minutes or more.
and
And
do they set it? Do you have them set an intention, or how?
yeah, they should. But sometimes the way I do it, it's with music. And so it has a beat, so it can be, sometimes I choose the playlist. So, and sometimes I try to evoke certain emotions, like, let's say it's a breath work for releasing sadness, or well, being joyful as well, because some people, it's hard for them to feel joy, to enjoy life. So this can be, I can evoke emotions, and I often ask people, what are your favorite songs you feel emotional about? So I can really tap into that, and help to or anger. Anger is, many people have anger issues. Men are more open and having anger, and women have repressed anger. So
And you need
both,
to you need to get it
yeah,
out, or it'll hurt your body,
yeah.
right? It'll come out
And
in
that is
illness.
something, yeah, and that helps to, well, move energy out of your body and really feel what's going on. So
So do you do this? So it sounds wonderful, because it sounds like you're really personalizing that for each person.
yes, if I do it with someone, it's very personalized. I talk with them, I ask, have a little chat about what's going on. So, but sometimes I don't know what they are doing. I have my playlist if they didn't told me what they like. So they come with their own intentions.
And do you do
And
this?
I just,
Do you do it online through
yeah.
Zoom?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can do it in person as well, but well, the pandemic, and I'm very much a online person,
I
virtual
would say an
person.
introvert. No.
Yeah, in a way. And well, I have a kid, and it's
Yeah.
sometimes just easier. And yes, I'm an introvert, and I like being home.
That's okay. No, that's okay.
Yeah.
I relate to that. I think a lot of artists relate to being introverts, you know.
Yeah.
So you can you do sessions with people online, and
Yeah.
it's a combination of talking, but also some of this breath work.
In coaching, I have coaching package where I do both, but you can come to me just to do breath work as well. And it's a facilitation. So we don't need to talk much. I can just be there and, well, hold space for you you can feel whatever is there, because sometimes it needs just someone around to witness what is going on for you, and to, well, guide you a little bit. Sometimes people don't need guidance. They just want to have that accountability to come to you and have, yeah, time to let go, because we're all busy people. And if you don't have it in the calendar, you
Yeah.
might don't do it.
No, you have to take time for yourself, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's part of it, is you have to plan and schedule self-soothe. Like, you have to take care of yourself. I always say that creativity is you're giving out to the world, but you have to put stuff back in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something I love to create. It's something I so much enjoy, and I often, when I'm in flow, I forget, and time is running, and I might don't have eaten, and it's like before I recognized my family isn't home, so no one's remembering me to
Uh-huh.
eat,
Uh,
and it was late, and I recognized, oh, it's dark outside, and I didn't have dinner. So it was kind of, oh,
so
and
it's,
some,
it's interesting, because as you talk, and even when you talk about breath work, I find myself right? I'm like breathing long. And I was wondering, you talk about being in that state of flow when you're doing the breath work. And I talk about it when I paint. When I paint, I feel like there's some sort of greater power flowing through me. When you do the breath work, do you think that that's kind of your gift?
Yeah. And absolutely. Um, I enjoy it myself, but I love it's sometimes I know someone who asked me, what is something no one escapes from you without having heard of something? And for me, it's breath work. It's even if it's just business coaching, or it's something I think it's so important. And it doesn't work for everybody. It's nothing works for anybody, but for me it's very powerful because it's just creating space for self-care and feeling and letting go and joy. Like, it's space for feelings you might missed out on in life, and taking care of yourself. And maybe I had a client, and she had she talked to her dead grandma.
Oh, really?
It was very, so it can be very spiritual as well. So experiences are very different, but it's an opening space to receive and fuel yourself up again to give maybe again the creativity out to others and create. And
Did you say there was there was a name to this technique, or have you kind of evolved it into your own?
no, this the one I learned was revelation breath work.
Revelation.
Yeah.
And so that's part of what you offer.
Yeah.
Wow. So that sounds pretty neat. So people could schedule a session with you and do something like that.
Yeah, they can.
And so working through that, is that help them get in touch with their belief systems and who they are and letting go and
things they might never thought about is a problem they have. Sometimes it's you go into a breathwork session, might have an intention, but it's coming out a different way. So it's really tapping into your unconsciousness and things you might never have thought of yourself. And that can be fuel creativity as well, because it helps to release stuck emotions and stuck feelings. So it's maybe people think about chakras and things and how they are blocked, and maybe this is helpful as well. So
it's neat. So it's sort of like I think it's just a way of getting in touch with your inner self, your deeper self, right?
Yeah, it's totally that kind of tool to feel yourself. And
so if somebody is at home or listening to this, is there some form of that they can do, or do you have something on your website, or you know what I mean, that they could do before or try it, or how what would you recommend?
You can do breath work yourself. So it's maybe the first time it's maybe should be guided by someone or going to a class. Their breath work facilitators doing classes, group classes. And I think that is a good way to really get in touch with it, but it's not something you need to do in a group, or you can do it yourself. I'm working on creating some recordings for breathwork, but I haven't yet, so it's on my to-do list. It's something, and I encourage my clients to practice it yourself when you just had one session, and you can do your own playlist. You can, you don't even need music. So
how, what would your biggest piece of advice be for women that are afraid to sell their own work or step it up like that? How would they process through that?
My biggest advice would be to reframe it as serving, that offering value to the world. And well, I know that's easy said, really sitting down and unpacking what we believe about sales. What do we believe about what is a salesperson? And maybe reframe, what do we believe is an advisor? Or, well, something like that, to, well, reframe the position we are in. And selling can be scary, but if we embrace the connection and the relationship with other people, and maybe seeing vision, have the vision about how, for example, art can be so wonderful and joy giving to other people, that is something very beautiful and enriching.
So what I heard there is focusing on the connection, focusing on the connection with others.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to do a little podcast in the near future about how to, when I feel anxious, focusing on people around me helps calm me, because I think when we feel anxious, we're projecting, it's a me-centeredness. We're so focused on ourselves, but by focusing on the people around me, it's sort of like you were just talking about, focusing on your breath or focusing on body parts. It's putting your mind elsewhere,
Yeah. And I think that is, if you're scared, you're focusing on yourself in a sales conversation. And if you focus on the other person and really thinking about how this can be so beautiful and helpful and enriching for them, and how you can be connect with them, that is a reframe that makes many people very happy.
I love it. I think that's exactly the truth of it. And I think that goes back to my conversations with my lunches, when I stopped trying to move myself ahead and started to really listen to the person I was having lunch with. Magic happens. The connection is what you look for. And then what happens with the connection, it's always exciting, right? They'll be like, oh, how about this? But that's not the point of it for me. Right.
Yeah.
So I love that. That's a great, is there anything else that we haven't spoken about that you'd like to mention or talk about with your services, or what you do, or that we missed? Or
I think we covered a lot.
I have a tendency to do that. I think it's a universal theme, and and sitting down, and that's why I male listeners and female listeners, just sitting down and realize, how do I view sales? Do I view it as healthy or pushy? Do I view it as sharing and helping, or do I view it as moving myself ahead? And that it seems like a little shift, right? But it's a big shift.
Yeah, and I think it's a very beautiful shift to be so helpful for others, and having this connection with other people, and having not the intention to take advantage of someone else. It's not about the sale, it's about the person in front of you and the work you created.
That's the quote. That's wonderful. It's not about the sale, it's about the person in front of you. Oh, you ended that well. Well, I thank you for joining us on this call. And I would like to remind the listeners that they should follow this podcast. They go up there and hit like and follow it. If it's on YouTube, you can also follow it there. And in the bio section, I will show you how you can get in touch with Miriam and schedule a session, or this is an amazing world, right? I mean,
it is.
Even though you're all the way over there in Zurich, Switzerland, or close to Zurich, Switzerland, you can deal with people all over the world that need this kind of assistance.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed that. I lived in California, so it's often, I'm so excited to meet people from the US. So I still feel connected to, well, people from all over the world. I really enjoy that, well, talking to different cultures and experiences. So I really enjoy the virtual digital experience we can create. It's sometimes internet can be scary, but it can be really open doors as well.
I agree with you. I think it is. It's amazing that you reach out and find commonality all
Yeah.
across the globe. So, well, I thank you for joining me on the show and sharing your ideas and sharing these concepts that obviously are very rich, and there's a lot of people that need to hear that message. So,
Thank you for allowing me to talk about that, and thank you for the conversation.
you're welcome. You're welcome. So, you have a pleasant evening, and we'll have a pleasant day.
Yes.
All right. Thanks again. And everybody, thanks for listening to the Spiritual Artist Podcast. We will talk to you soon.